Hello.
Hey, sir, let me turn your volume down or a wee bit,
Hang on,
or
Mike.
turn your volume
You.
down just a smidge. All right. So we're streaming on YouTube's
Can you hear
live.
me?
Oh, you're very loud. Hold on one second. Let me go into my turn your mic down. Turn my mic down.
Hmm.
No, you're okay. You're
Oh,
okay.
we got some issue.
Go ahead and give me a test. You got. I think your volume. Your volume.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you just fine. Can you hear me?
Okay. What's going on my side? Is it just something dumb like I've muted it on my end? Can you try speaking again?
Yeah, you're really loud. Can you hear me?
Okay. But Discord sometimes Discord could still be on.
Yeah, if you close Discord,
Okay, Discord is trying to send it to my device, which is ridiculous. Okay, let's try and put that to my headphones. Right.
and it,
How's that?
and turn your microphone down.
Yeah, man. What's going on there? Right. Nope. Um. Okay.
Can you hear me at all?
Let me disconnect and try again now that I've changed the settings. Hang on.
Bear with us, YouTube. We are getting all the kinks worked out. Hopefully, you can hear me okay. Yes, I can hear you just fine. Can you hear me? He can't hear us. So we're streaming on YouTube's
Can you hear
live.
me?
Yeah. Oh, you're very loud. Hold on one second. All right. So we're obviously recording. We're just waiting for Mazza to rejoin, or Andrew. All righty, excellent. I can hear you. Just give me a test 1 2 3. Nice and.
Sure. Test 1 2 3.
All right. Let me see how we hear it on our end over here. See my big fat self
You can
here.
turn it up or down if you like.
Um, there's a couple second delay on YouTube, so I want to make sure we're catching everything correctly.
Okay. We're live on YouTube.
We are live on YouTube. We're nothing but professionalism here at the Mr. Mean Show. But I know it's all streaming, and I know the audio is working because I'm watching myself on my iPad. If you see me looking off to the.
Yes, I can see you on your iPad. Yeah.
I just I just want to make sure that your audio is okay.
Well, meantime, I'm still
Well,
live on YouTube.
actually, hold on one second.
Correctly.
Yeah, now you're real. Nothing but professionalism here at the Mr. Mean
Are
Show.
we loud? Is it
But I
soft?
know it's all streaming. It's on my end.
Okay.
Go ahead and give me a test again.
Test, test, test. 1 2 3.
Yeah, there we go. That's much better. So hopefully, now we got to give. Unfortunately, we have to give the YouTubes a second to catch up. It's on my end.
Okay.
There we go. Yeah, much better now. Much better. All right, we'll turn that down. So, all righty, now that we got the technical difficulties worked out, this is Mr. Mean going on YouTube on this Saturday afternoon. It is noon 30 here almost. But Mr. Andrew Marrington, I believe you're on the other side of the world, and it's a little dark there, I bet.
It is. It is 9:30 or 9:30ish at night in Dubai.
In
Yeah.
Dubai. Nice, excellent. Well, thank you for coming on and doing the show with me again. Let me change this to a
Thanks for
full.
having me back.
Oh well, it was my stupidity that I did the recording and it didn't work out. So We are recording now. Everything is working. I can hear audio. We've got some fun stuff to talk about. You have been a big supporter of the Mr. Mean Show, so I thank you. You're quite active on the Discords, and I really do appreciate that. You and
Fun
all
Discord,
those.
very fun Discord.
Oh, thank you, sir. Well, it's fun because of guys like you. So
Thank you.
it's a lot of fun. You have been a creative designer. So for those that don't know, why don't you just give us the intro and tell us a little bit about what you do for the hobby world?
Sure. Well, I am mostly interested in what I mostly have been working on old school Renaissance or revival or whatever you want to call the ROSR games. Has mostly been the space that I've been working in. Um, I am uh, I'm also a really keen player of the new Chivalry and Sorcery edition. So I, I've put out something for that, and I hope I'll be able to put out some more things for that as my campaign draws up, because I don't want to give any spoilers away to my players. Yes, there's goblins, orcs, and trolls. That's a terrific book. Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, I guess the reason that that's the sort of space I'm in is that I got into the hobby with the black box, the basic set. Black people. This is somehow not as well known online as like the older sets were from the 80s, but in the early 90s, TSR put out a big black box that had a rule book that covered levels 1 through 5 of D&D, basic D&D, and gave you all little stand-up figures and the dungeon map and all the rest of it, all the dragon cards, all this sort of stuff. And that's how I sort of taught myself the hobby out of that box, and sort of all the friends that I got into RPGs the first probably 5 years I was in the hobby at all. Sort of I taught and I learned from that box, and so when my kids were interested in sort of playing the same games that I do, I sort of look back to that version, and I just thought there was a lot of good stuff there. And I found that one was not, there's retro clones. The OSR is a very big movement, and there's almost as many retro clones as there are OSR gamers. But so there's retro clones of all the stuff that came out in the 70s and the 80s, but not that black box that I first got into. It's very similar in many ways, and I built it on the same on combination of things from Labyrinth Lord and what's now called Old School Essentials. It was called BX Essentials then, and that's first 5 fantasy role playing, and that's sort of got me started. And after that, I started putting out some other products for as well. So I think you've got one there. I just saw one flash by in the background. Yes, you got this.
Yeah, and I'm going to say, first of all, disclaimer, thank you for sending these to me. It was super awesome of you, and I've enjoyed them. I have flipped through them, but I'm really loving this form factor. Modifius is even picking up on it. They just released, it's not just, but Dishonored off of the video games, but they have a full-size RPG, but they also did and I love this size. And these, I mean, you can throw them in your backpack. They take up no space. They're pretty lightweight. And these first 5 is, I mean, this is guaranteed to get your kids into gaming right here. I mean, your 8, 9, 10-year olds. This is perfect. I mean, you knocked it out of the park. It's
thank you very much.
Yeah, the layout's easy. I mean, the text it's dense. I mean,
it might be a bit small.
No, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is there's a lot of information in here, and
the secret of that is that there is an A4 version.
But us Yanks, cover. Us Yanks don't do that A4 stuff, buddy.
Right. Well, that's an A5 book though, so that's also a metric page size. So it's literally that book is this book photo reduced down. So
yeah,
if you like bigger text, get the soft cover version.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I got 53-year-old eyes that I'm going, basically blind, and this is still readable to me with my cheaters on, of course. But it's still readable. It's still doable. And my point is, this is it's got that. And I don't mean this in a negative or pandering way.
Sure.
It's got that kids book feel, right? Because
Yeah.
it's their
Yeah.
size. So if
Yep.
you're out there and you're watching this show and you're like, gee, Mr. Mean, what game system can I do to help get my kids interested in role playing and learning deductive reasoning, reading, articulation, math, social encounters, first five, buddy. First five fantasies, the way to
Yeah.
go. Mr. Andrew has done us all a solid by producing this awesome game. And while I am enamored with this and think it is super cool, I think, and you know this because we've talked before.
Sure.
This
Yeah.
is my love child.
Yeah.
Uh,
Chaos Cult Erotica.
oh man, this is just so many cool things in here. Kind of system agnostic. You can use
Yep.
this pretty much in anything you want. I mean, it's geared towards OSR, right? I
Yep.
mean,
Yeah.
the stats and everything
It's
in it.
started for for Labyrinth Lord / First Five / original
But
Beckme or BX D&D. Yeah.
yeah, but it'll work in it. You could use this in DCC. You could use this in Lamentations of the Flame Princess. You could use this in Pathfinder, D&D. This is solid. What made you do this? I mean,
Um. So I had and actually there's a few intended to come out in a series of this. I have a few other sort of half completed Chaos Cults I need to get out. But it's uh, something that I was playing in both Lamentations of the Flame Princess and basic D&D, and you often need to know who those chaos cultists are. Like if you look at those classic modules, the Caves of Chaos, that sort of stuff. I mean, who are those people? Who are those chaos cultists? They're just in there going, "Woo, chaos!" I mean, they must be worshiping something, and
somebody
have
needs to
some
know
sort of more
about them.
detail to them. Yeah, yeah. So sometimes you want to flesh out that a little bit. And I think that one came from a sort of uh, originally from a sort of um, a throwaway, like a player asked me, well, who are they worshipping, and I had to say something like,
Yes,
and I
quick.
made a name up. Yeah, and then I developed some more detail from there,
Because
and,
I'm
and
telling
so I
you,
thought it was to kind of drop in. Yeah.
no role playing game is complete until you have a sputum crawler, you know, in your game,
Yeah.
which is basically just a writhing, crawling pile of phlegm that can
Yeah,
infest
mucus
your
monster.
mucus monster. You're not complete, but those are followers of the channel who know I'm a huge Nurgle fan for Warhammer 40k, for fantasy roleplay. Nurgle, one of the plague gods, plague, deities, and this just it tickled my fancy. It really, I mean, I read this thing from cover to cover. And it's just so much fun. There's even kind of a starting little adventure in here where you can set stuff, and it's the Chaos God of Disease, Plague, and Pestilence. That's Father Nurgle, no matter how you slice. Call it
Yeah.
whatever you want, or
Well,
Bubonica, Bubonicus. You want to go your Roman feel, your Latin feel, whatever evil, plague-ridden deity you want. This book
yeah.
will help. So if you're a GM out there looking for that and you're digging that, I highly recommend you pick up Chaos Cults Bubonica. This is gonna scratch your itch or your boil if you so are inclined. And it's just a cool little book. 22 pages, including the OGL. 23 pages, excuse me, softback. Available on Drive Through RPG. But can local game stores get this?
Um, Not just yet, but we're working on that. You can also now get it from Lulu because earlier this year, Drive-Through changed the format, so those sort of saddle stitched books, like I don't have
Yeah,
one of those
not
ones, but
available
yeah,
anymore.
those aren't available. So I'm really fond of that format, and
Yeah.
so I made a version available through Lulu. You can still get it on Drive-Through in like a perfect bound book, and you know what? It's perfectly good in that format too.
Yeah.
But the Lulu one's a bit more expensive, and it's on a sort of higher quality paper, and the colors a little bit more vivid, but you wouldn't really notice it. But that's probably the one that will try to get into the game stores. That'll be my next adventure with probably with Mr. Turner, Mr.
Nice.
Turner from Britannia Games, his advice, I think. Yeah. So
Yeah, Mr. Steven is a wonderful chat. I haven't had a chance to chat with him again. He's been obviously super busy, but I have to redo the interview with him because, again, we did it, and for whatever reason, we couldn't hear his audio. So then second up, my second favorite of the little books that you've done that is definitely going to find its way into one of my campaigns the next time I run is Worm Cults. This
Womb
is
Cults, yeah.
womb cults. I'm sorry.
Yeah. No worries.
Well, there's just that one picture of the guy that's pregnant in here that just kills me. This is another one. This is aliens. This is off the wall. This is again that uh, uh, you know small form factor, hardback. It's great.
You can get a soft cover too, also small.
Ooh.
So
Yeah,
I have
I
that one
do
too.
appreciate the hardback. But yeah, available softback, drive through RPG. Is this one available on Lulu as well?
No, this one's not on Lulu because I didn't have that perfect bound issue. Like I didn't like this was never in saddle stitch format.
Gotcha.
So I only converted the titles that were meant to be saddle stitched.
But the
Yeah.
cover is amazing. You know, the aliens that have been
Yeah.
here. And again, this can go in any genre you want. Don't feel that, you have to run it for Lamentations of the Flame Princess or DCC. You could run this in your Stars Without Numbers game. You could run this, Pathfinder, D&D, of course. This is really, again, more setting agnostic, in my opinion. It's good for
Yeah.
anything. It gives you that cult, Roman times, high fantasy, low fantasy, whatever you want. Low fantasy gaming, this would be amazing in, I think. Very cool
Yeah.
for low fantasy
Yeah.
gaming. I'm a big fan of, I'm on that kick right now with Pickpocket
Yeah.
Puzzles.
I've noticed. Yeah, you got the great low fantasy gaming game sessions you'd be doing live streaming and things. So
Thank you,
yeah.
thank you. Yeah, my friend Hobbs of Hobbs and Friends has been kind enough and gracious enough to host and record and let me run the game. So a lot of fun. We just wrapped it up. It was I think a 4 or 5 session little mini campaign. I'm getting ready to start another one with Slay Industries. I think,
Oh, cool. Oh,
yeah,
that's a cool game too.
yeah.
Yeah.
I've been a long time. I have the original Slay
Oh,
Industries,
wow.
softback and hardback when they did the like a reprint. It wasn't a second edition. It was still the same. The game mechanics were horrible. I hated the combat mechanics. Hated them. Oh my god, you had to be a mathematician to figure that game out. But it was such a cool setting. And so yeah, my next campaign will be. I just got all my Kickstarter rewards. They're sitting right over there. I think they're slightly off camera. You can't see them, but I got them.
Awesome.
Yeah, I got the GM's pack. I got the book, a
Ah,
set of dice. I didn't go bonzo for it, but I did get what I felt. The GM screen is amazing, by the way. If you haven't picked it up, or if it's
yeah.
you're a
Okay,
huge
I'll have to.
Cyberpunk fan, so that should
Yeah, I am a big Cyberpunk fan. Yeah.
yes, that should be right up your alley then, and definitely can
Yeah, yeah,
steal some
yeah.
stuff.
I
But
missed the original edition. Yeah, I missed the original edition, and but I did play in a game of that. Who was it from Slay Industries? Ran a from Slay, who was it? Sorry, from the publisher, not from Slay.
yeah,
Who ran a
Mr.
ran a
Slayer ran a game for you. That is
Mr. Slayer,
awesome.
yeah, but we had a great yeah.
Session.
I've played in a great one shot of it recently, and
Dave
yeah, I want
Alsop
to check it out.
is one of the creative designers, and Jared Earl. They're the two big wigs behind it. Uh,
Yeah.
and Jared also, I believe, did all the layout, and also he's a big artist behind it as
Yeah, I wish
well.
I was omni talented like that.
No,
I have
well,
to
you
get
know what? But it's only
behind
taken him
the
20 years to come out with a second edition. So
yeah,
let's
yeah,
not, there's something about being multi-talented, and there's something about being timely. So fans have been clamoring, and I'm just glad that the Kickstarter made it. You know what I
yeah.
mean? So it's an amazing game. I highly recommend it if it's not on your list. But we're not here to talk about Jared or Dave and their awesome product. We're here to talk about your awesome products. You're also running right now Cyberpunk Red,
I am, yes.
and you're loving
Yeah,
that, right?
yes. I mean, I loved Cyberpunk 2020. It was actually the second RPG I ever owned was Cyberpunk 2020,
Yeah.
and so I was running the 2020 campaign last year when Cyberpunk Red came out, and I think that I still think Cyberpunk 2020 was really ahead of its time like even down to like layout and artwork, and like that book, even though it's black and white, it still really holds up compared to modern games. You know, if you just didn't have the difference of production value in terms of like hardcover and all the rest of it, like
Yeah.
it's still a really nice book. Uh, but there's certain things about the system that I think um, Cyberpunk Red it has refined that same sort of basic system from Cyberpunk 20, and it's just made it a little bit more um, sort of gameable. I think for new people, like new players getting into to Cyberpunk, I think that they will find Cyberpunk Red clearer than Cyberpunk 2020. And having just run last year a Cyberpunk 2020 campaign for a combination of veterans and players who are new to the game, I definitely think that Red gives that clearer guidance about what the different
Yep.
roles can do.
Yep.
But maybe Cyberpunk 2020 may still be, if you want something that's a little bit more open, maybe there's still value having both on your shelf, I think.
Yes.
But
Yes.
it's a
Yeah, I will
yeah.
totally agree. I started my cyberpunk journey with the, it was a little black box set back in
Oh
the
wow,
what early '90s, late '80s. I don't even remember the date, but it was
'80s I think. Yeah,
Friday Night Firefight. It wasn't
awesome.
even called
Yeah,
Cyberpunk 2020 at the time. It came out under the original title of Friday Night Firefight, and it was some pamphlets in a box with some dice, and it was awesome. And we played it. And then of course the Cyberpunk 2020 came out, and it was a softback book, and it was
yeah,
everything we wanted it plus a slice of bread. It was amazing. And
yeah, yeah,
we
yeah.
ran it. It was so cool. Cell phones in your head and cyber blades that would pop out like Wolverine, and you were
Yep.
just, and Mr. Stud all night, every night. You could get that implant. See, you're old school. You know what
Still
I'm
there.
talking about.
Yeah, it's
I
still
don't
it's
think
hey,
I.
that's still in red. It's still there.
Yeah. So nothing says classic cyberpunk like Mr. Stud or whatever they're calling
That's
it.
right.
But yeah,
Yeah.
it was an amazing game, and
I,
it was
I,
way, Mona Lisa Overdrive was the big cyberpunk fiction at the time. So of course,
yeah.
I remember when Friday Night Firefight came out, I was actually in the midst of reading Mona Lisa Overdrive. And I
Oh
actually
wow.
had the pocket, novel in my hand, and I was just running through the game store, and there was this black box with Morgan Blackhand on the cover with the cable coming out going into the side of his head, and I was like, "What the hell is that? That looks cool." And I picked it up, and Night City in the background, and I was like, wow, this is amazing. Got home and drooled over it
Yeah.
for hours, ran it, played in a bunch of games, and then of course the physical book came out, and they changed the name to Cyberpunk 2020. And it was amazing.
Mm.
It was awesome. I was a huge fan of Cyber Generation, which was a spin-off
Yep.
game of it. About world pollution and everything. It was a big environmentalist type game. It never took off like I hoped it would have, but I still thought it was an amazing
Mm.
game. And it's on my shelf right there, right next to my horrible action figure version of Cyberpunk 2070, or 20. Is it 2020 or 2070? I don't remember. Version 3.
The 20 version 3, that was the
The
third
action
edition.
figure.
It's kind of been,
Yeah.
which one is that
I
one?
can't get through
Let's see.
here. I have. Yeah. So let's see here. Let's go back through memory lane. So
Oh,
there's the GM screen
oh
for,
yeah, oh yeah. That's third edition. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
yeah, and then I talked to Mike. Mike, I used to go to conventions for Mike, and he was in the Bay Area for a long time. He's a longtime friend, longtime person who's known me, and I've known him. And
yeah.
I
Okay.
asked him. I remember asking him specifically, because there's version 3, and it's just
Yep.
cyberpunk role playing in the dark future. It doesn't give you a 2020. And I remember asking him. Let me see. Let me find. We'll go back to the age, to the. God, I'm looking for art because there wasn't a lot of art in this book. That's a hard picture. And the
Yeah.
rules changed a little bit. It wasn't necessarily the greatest rule set. I think 2020 was a much
Is it the
better.
fusion system?
It was kind of a little. He did his own thing, but there,
Oh
the
yeah.
the action figures, all the art was action figures in this, the modified action figures. And I remember asking him, I was like, Mike, what is up with that horrendous art in the book? Because I saw the cover and I bought it. Didn't even flip it over
Yeah,
and look through it. I bought it. It was cut and dry. I knew I was buying it. And then I got
yeah.
home and I started reading it and looking at it. Oh, this one's horrendous. Just absolutely horrendous.
Yeah,
And I
when you come from one of the most beautiful, you know, the
yeah,
previous edition was so well
yes.
illustrated.
I
Yeah,
mean, look at
yeah.
that one.
Oh dear,
Yeah.
that's
And
just
the layout
much
to me
work. Yeah,
wasn't that great. It wasn't horrible, but it wasn't great. And I remember
yeah.
asking him, I said, Mike, what is up with the layout and the art? And look, even on the back, some of the most horrendous pictures on the back,
Mm.
those are all action figures in Photoshop. And it's just horrible. And he said, well, I had two choices. I could either produce a cool game or I could produce a pretty game. Which one do you think I went with? And I went, well,
Mm,
I think
mm.
you went with a cool game. He said, exactly. I said, art is expensive. And at that time, this was at the waning
Yeah.
tail of the RPGs before we went into that economic slump. And, people weren't, WotC almost went under, you know,
Mm.
so all that stuff. And yeah, it was definitely 1990. When was this originally?
I think the third edition wasn't that like at the end of or it's the middle of
2005.
2005? Yeah, I
Yeah.
want to say middle
So
of the
that's
noughties.
when
Yeah,
role playing games kind of took a dive, so to speak. Um,
yeah, yeah. That
but
initial third edition boom went
yeah,
collapsed quickly. Third
yeah.
edition D&D
But
boom
this
collapsed
this is
quickly,
the
and then
only this is the only one.
yeah,
It's you got yours. I saw it right there. And I mean,
yep, I got one.
mine's still in pristine condition. I mean, this is actually my second copy. My first copy I used
Mine
so
too.
much that the pages
Yeah,
started falling out because we played every Friday night. I mean, me and my
yeah,
buddies would get together and we would play for 6 hours. But anyway, so you
my first
obviously
one
have a
still back
love.
in Australia somewhere. Yeah,
Yeah,
in a
yeah.
in a
So
storage shed.
you obviously have a love for Cyberpunk. But real quick, we got a question from Nasser. He wants to know if there's anything new in the plans for you. So are we gonna possibly doing a collaboration with our Talsorian? Or
Yeah.
do you?
I think I haven't. I mean, I haven't dreamed of doing something like that actually, but that'd be awesome. But no, I'm just a big fan of that game, and I think like a lot of people just played the Cyberpunk 2077 video game. I know that had a mixed sort of release on consoles, but
Yeah.
on PC it was terrific. And what to me, I just felt like what an amazing love letter to an RPG from the early '90s. Like an RPG in the early '90s that's not D&D into a AAA video game and spends hundreds of millions
You
of
know,
dollars on it.
I was on the Xbox Scorpio edition, right, which was the
Okay,
last new Xbox before they came out with the Series X and the Series S. And
yeah,
when 2077 released, I of course pre-ordered it and I installed it, and I didn't have any problems. I played it without
yeah,
any problems. It did lock up on me
yeah.
once, but I was able to play it. It was a playable game. I enjoyed it. I'm still playing it. I don't get as much time to play with RPGs as I like with
Mm,
computer games, be console
yeah,
or
yeah,
PC. But yeah, you're right. What a love letter. And the guys over at CD Projekt Red, they flew Mike to and from Poland multiple
yeah,
times to have him correspond and write kind of a story for the game, and just
yeah, yeah,
you play that game and you feel like you're that Friday night sitting around the table with a bunch of 10-sided dice in front of you ready to play Cyberpunk, at least for me.
absolutely.
And I
Yeah, I
can't.
felt that too, and I so loved it. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, same. And now I have an Xbox Series X and I've installed it and it's been optimized for Series X. So it just looks absolutely stunning on my big screen TV and I'm
Well,
couldn't
that's
be
good. I'm
happier.
glad it's working well on those consoles.
Yeah,
Yeah,
at least for
on the
me it has.
PC. Yeah, well, I mean, on the PC it's been great, but I also wanted to say I found the other day if you
Uh-oh.
don't have a copy of this, but you do have the game on the PC, there's a folder of bonus content with
Yes.
your install that includes this on PDF, along with the version in Polish, I think,
Yeah.
uh, as well as a great soundtrack, which is a really great soundtrack for background in tabletop cyberpunk games
How
too. So it's
cool
a
is
nice
that?
little treasure trove. It's great. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
fantastic. So
You
no,
can't
I love it.
beat that, that's and
Yeah,
that's Mike. I'm sure that was something he had a hand in because he's that kind of guy. And
yeah.
Cody, his son, I watched Cody grow up. Cody used to go to the conventions with him and stuff.
Oh
And
wow.
Cody's turned into a right fine game designer himself, and as well as I've watched him run a couple games, and yeah, so he's turned into a really good game master himself. So that's Cody Pondsmith is obviously uh,
That's awesome. Yeah.
Mike's
No.
son.
Well, I would love to do something for Cyberpunk, but you know, I feel like I'm a little way off. Reaching out to
I don't.
people that are sort of
I've read your
my idols
stuff.
like that.
I've read your stuff, and it's amazing. So I think you just need to sit down and as we say here in America, nut up and start writing some cyberpunk adventures for Artel Saurian. I think they would produce them because I think you write cool stuff. So that's just
Awesome.
Mr.
Thank you.
Mean speaking. What do I know? You know, obviously not
Thank you
much.
very much.
Yeah. And then on top of that, like I said, you've been very active in the Mr. Mean community. You are very active with Andy Staples and his name is escaping me now. The brainchild behind uh, Chivalry and Sorcery. He ran the game for us. Can't think of his
Oh,
name.
Steve Turner. Yeah.
Steve Turner, Stephen Turner, and we actually, you and I, got to play in Chivalry and Sorcery, which was amazing. Even if I did manage to get you in all kinds of trouble. Um,
I think
didn't
we
I
both
put?
got each other in.
Yeah, I put Andy's character to sleep, and hence he
Right.
fell and wound up stabbing you. I believe is what happened, or
In my hand. Yeah.
yes, yes. So, yay, magic, yay. Be careful what you wish for. You might just get it.
Absolutely.
Are you planning to write anything for Chivalry and Sorcery outside of what you got going on?
Yes, definitely. Yeah. Definitely. Actually, I've been running a campaign for CNS for about a year now, and I am definitely uh, there's one thing I've put out which is just a monster for Chivalry and Sorcery called the Lilith, which is based on well, it's a combination of sources, but my own setting, my campaign setting, is based in sort of my interpretation of Clark Ashton Smith's Averoigne, and it seemed to me that something like the Lilith would fit very nicely into Averoigne. So it's inspired that way, but it's also linked to like medieval Hebrew like mythology, sort of parallel to the Jewish and Christian Bible stories from Genesis. You have this idea of Adam having a first wife and things not ending well with her without without any spoilers for the medieval texts. and then
Just
and
in
so
case
this
anyone hasn't read the Bible,
in
right?
case anyone hasn't read them yet. So yeah, the Lilith are sort of descended from her is the idea
Ooh,
from Lilith, the
nice.
Adam's first wife. Yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's so I put that out, and they're quite important in my campaign. But there's a lot of stuff I've been writing for the use in my game, which when that game eventually expires or finishes, I will package up, or I may look at how I can package up for other people to use. Even if it's just by means of I share my world anvil or something with people, so
Yeah.
that people can get in there and explore the setting without doing it as a book. But I definitely want to do more scriptorium products for CNS, definitely.
Yeah.
So
Well, I mean, Stephen is he's one of the nicest guys I've ever met. Along with you and Andy Staples. Andy Staples and I just hit it off. He's just a fun guy. I enjoy chatting with him. I think our brains work very similar, except he's a lot smarter than me. But that's okay. I get that a lot. I'm not very smart. My knuckles drag the ground, and there's a reason for that. But I do
no,
enjoy yeah, I do enjoy the creative process, and I love Andy's take on things and Steven's. take on things. And I remember somebody telling me, I was talking to somebody in Discord about Chivalry and Sorcery, and that to me it was always that historical game. It's a bunch of old guys with big long beards,
Mm.
sitting around a table talking about the Welsh and the in Liverpool and and I was never into that, right? I was into
Sure.
dragons and orcs and and goblins and and all that fun stuff, and CNS didn't have orcs and goblins and trolls, right? I mean, it's a historical role playing game. Who wants to play historical role playing game because there's no orcs, goblins, and trolls in it? So
Right. Yeah.
boy did
But now you know more. Yeah.
it didn't Turner prove me wrong. uh, and then of course he ran
Yeah.
that fantastic little two-part scenario for us where we had high magic, we had ghouls, we had evil mages, and anybody
Yeah.
who says chivalry and sorcery can't do high fantasy, obviously has never played chivalry and sorcery. Is would be my retort.
Right. Yeah. And
Because
you can interweave those things with history too. And
yeah,
this is
because
actually
he put history
yeah.
in our game. It was set in a real village, and stuff.
Mm.
And I love the politicking in the book. Chivalry and Sorcery is a gorgeous book, in and above itself. If
Mm.
you are any somewhat of a historical fan, it should be in your collection because um,
Definitely. Yeah.
just reading it was a wealth of information. But then, I got the Were Creatures book, for vampires and were creatures that Andy
Mm.
had sent or Steven had sent to me, and I was just blown away because I love were creatures. I love that idea of the dual nature. By day you're a human, and by night you're a were creature, or whatever, however you choose to do it in your world. But having that dichotomy of dealing with the yin and the yang, the Jekyll and the Hyde. I love
Mm.
that in a role playing game, and that just delivered on it a thousandfold for me you know
Definitely. Yeah. Yeah.
and so Mr. Turner's creative juices and Andy's are just phenomenal. And then gaming with you were playing the were you a hedge knight or were you a lord? I
I,
don't
I was I was a lord. I
right.
think the it has had a custom vocation called herald. So
Yeah.
I which kind of meant I was familiar with all of the rules and courtly rules and all the rest of that.
Yeah,
And
you were spot on, man. I mean, you were very much, I'm the good guy. Sally forth and protect that fair maiden. By the way, the fair
yeah,
maiden has fangs and is trying to seduce you. And I do believe you got fairly seduced, did you not? If I remember
I got
correctly.
seduced by the book, definitely.
Yeah. Damn you, I wanted
Yeah,
that book. That book
that
had all
book.
kinds of
Yeah.
cool spells. And as a matter of fact, as a side note, just between you and I, and I'm sure no one's watching this, so it won't matter. Steven sent me a copy of the book. It's an actual uh, item in his game, and so
Oh, okay.
so he sent me the book. The book can uh, Nasser was the knight. That's right. He came in and he played the knight.
Yeah,
So yeah,
yeah.
the book is a real artifact in his game world and in the game. So he sent me all those. So I have the rules. So if I ever run it, that book will be making an appearance, in my
Oh,
world.
cool.
Yeah. So
Yeah, yeah.
super nice of him to do that. He did, but he knew how much I loved Barnabas. Barnabas was my mage, and
Yes, yeah, yeah, yeah.
he was super cool.
It's
I
a great
really
name too, isn't it?
Oh,
Barnabas.
just
Oh,
phenomenal. Magnus Barnabas, or Barnabas
yeah,
Magnus was my name, and
Barnabas Magnus. Yeah,
yes, he was an iconic character, and I love him. So hopefully we'll get Mr. Turner to run some more for us one day, and we can revise all those
definitely.
characters and bring them back to play. It would be a lot of fun. But you were also a
Be-
where are you going? Uh, you are also a big fan of obviously Chivalry and Sorcery. You're running a campaign right now. Is
Yep,
Andy
yep.
Staples playing in that game or?
Yes, he is playing in that game. Yes, so I have a big cheerleader for me on the Chivalry and Sorcery Facebook group and things because he always reports what goes on in the game, and then all these all these people I don't know go, oh, that sounds really cool, and I'm thinking, oh, that's that's a nice boost for your ego, and all these people, you know,
Well,
So that sounds cool. Yeah.
And
So
Andy Staples is the line editor for that game, so
yeah, yeah.
obviously he knows it quite well, and he runs his own
Yeah, it
campaign.
definitely helps. Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, it definitely helps early on, when we first started running the game, we all knew, okay, look, it's a, got a copy of it here. It's
the
I ran it
tome.
yesterday, so I still got the rule book. It's a decent tome, and you don't need to have all of that to play. You don't need to memorize it all, but
Right,
it definitely helped early in the campaign to have someone else that knew the rules better than me at that time
right.
to help out, and it still sort of helps to have him there, sort of at least for those sort of rules check purposes, be an assistant GM.
Yeah,
it's
no,
it's
no,
it's
and
very
that
helpful.
that
Yeah,
is always, it's nice to have that where you can look to somebody and say, hey, do I have that rule right, or whatever,
yeah. Especially
and
when it's a player, and like Andy knows really well, like he knows that line between what's when he's helping with a
right,
rule versus he's not going to be the GM. He
right.
won't
He's not going to be a rules
overrule
lawyer.
or overstep.
Yeah,
Right? Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. So someone like that's really, that's why I always say, but you got a rules lawyer in your game, you could just channel them. They could actually be a real asset to you. But in the end, it's really more about their personality. Will they use
Yeah.
those powers for good or evil?
Right, exactly. With great responsibility, with great power comes great. I had Ben in my
Absolutely.
Pathfinder game, my home campaign before COVID was like that. Knew the rule book inside and out, and I run
Mm,
through so many different RPG games that I get rules confused all the time. And
mm,
so because I'm reading, and I'm always doing reviews and stuff, so I'm reading rules and it gets jumbled. And I will say that having been in my game was like that. I was able to channel him, and I never had to have the talk with him about being disruptive. He knew the rules, and whenever anything was in question, he would pipe up. And yeah, and Andy,
mm.
having Andy in for your game, that's just awesome. And Andy was a great player, and
Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
got the way I met all of you guys is through Nasser, of course. So shout outs to Nasser. I know
The
he's watching.
glue. Yeah, absolutely.
The glue
Nasser's
that
Nasser's
binds
great.
all of us nerds together,
He's
Nasser Super Beast.
he's the fixer in cyberpunk terms.
He
He's our
is
fixer.
totally the fixer.
Yeah,
The fixer, aka the Mr. Johnson, if you're a Shadowrun guy.
yeah.
He is definitely the glue that binds all of us nerds together, and he put me in touch. It's funny because he said, hey, I'd like you to run. I've got a bunch of guys together, and I want you to run Simba Room. But unfortunately, we've only got about 45 to 50 minutes to do it. Can you do it? And I was like, dude, I'm the master. I can do anything. And I didn't know Andy Staples was going to be in the game. And so he had
Mm,
his name down at the bottom of the screen. Now, everybody had their name. And I saw the name, but it didn't click. I've known his name for years, right? Because he's a luminary in the industry. And so I'm running Simba Room, and I've never run an adventure that fast. And I guess, according to Nasser, I impressed Andy and he really liked the Simba Room. And Simba Room is one of my favorite games. It's a great game if you haven't checked it out. But it was so much
mm.
fun to run those guys through it. And Nasser was a great player. Andy was a great player. He played the little goblin riding the pig. And it was beyond fun. And I mean, we ran this thing in like 50 minutes, and it was just straight chaos because we had such little time to impart so much information. But it was a lot of fun. I have to say, I would love to do it again one day with that same group because they were a great
Yeah,
group of
definitely.
players. It was all the guys. I think it was all the guys from the GRC. Uh,
Yeah, I think it was. I remember this discussion. I know I wasn't able to join at the time, but I remember. I think you might have had Omar, and you might have
yes,
had. Do
yes.
you have Mo as well? Maybe Muhammad Khan. You might have had.
Mohammed and Omar and
Yeah,
Andy and Nasser. Um,
there you go.
and they
Yeah.
they were amazing, dude. They were so much fun to play with. And Andy just and then after the game and it all clicked, I'm going back watching the video and I'm like, Andy's wait a minute, ding, the light went on in my head. And I told Nasser that I would like to, if he is so agreeable, I would love to get him on the channel. And then all of a sudden, like 2 minutes later, bing, Discord notification, he's joined your Discord. I'm like, holy shit, I have famous people in my Discord, famous to us in our little. And then you joined, which was even, because I love this. I love this. This is awesome. So yeah. So long story short, it is a small world, 6 degrees of separation, uh, and we got to play CNS together, which was a lot of fun. You're running
Absolutely.
Cyberpunk Red, so and you're running that online, correct?
Yes, yeah, I'm running that online, and I'm running Chivalry and Sorcery online. Everything actually that I'm doing at the moment, it's all online. Although
Everybody's online now.
everyone's online, yeah. I mean,
Thank you,
actually,
COVID.
I've been running. Yeah, thanks, thanks, COVID. Um, uh, uh, I've been running Pendragon, King Arthur Pendragon since October 2017,
Wow.
for a group of people in the GRC, and that's been face to face, obviously, until the pandemic, and now it's online. And honestly, I mean, people are getting vaccinated, and as soon as it's safe to do it, I want to be back face to face with that game
Same. Same. I
because
missed the table.
uh, and I like playing online too. I have to say, the game that Womb Cult came from was an online game. I ran Lamentations of the Flame Princess online for years, and that's what Womb Cult sort of came from. So uh, uh, the I'm definitely happy to play online, but there are some games where you feel like the dynamic suits the table
Yeah.
better,
Yeah, for
and
me that's
and
Pathfinder. Pathfinder
yeah,
is sit
well,
around the table, chuck dice. Savage Worlds to me because it's so fast. Simba Room, those are all I want to sit around the table and I want to play those. But like Chivalry and
mm,
Sorcery, I think work just fine online. Cyberpunk, I
yeah,
think works. Obviously, Cyberpunk, that's duh. That's milk and cookies, right? That just goes together.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah. So yeah, I totally feel you there.
yeah,
So can't wait
definitely.
till
So I think
everybody gets their
it's something to
shots.
want to.
Yeah, everybody gets
Absolutely,
their
yeah,
shots, and we can get our gaming groups back together, and we can. But I hope what happens is I hope that people still keep the online momentum going. I hope that we still,
definitely,
you
yeah,
know, I
yeah,
know I want to keep one of my players in my Pathfinder game because that's a local game that I was playing here in my house in
mm,
Minnesota, but one of the players lives in I believe it's Pennsylvania,
yeah,
and he stepped in when my friend Ben had to drop out of the game because he just wasn't into the online thing. So
yeah, yeah,
as much as I want to bring my players in house, I don't want to lose Bill, one of he's my only online player. I want him to be able to play.
yeah.
So
Going to yeah,
it's
well, that's what we think with Andy with Chivalry and Sorcery. The rest of the players are still here in Dubai,
yeah,
but Andy moved back to Britain,
traitor.
during the pandemic. Well, I mean, you got the truth is everyone has to go back to their own country at some point,
Right.
and
Yeah,
he's obviously
it
loving
doesn't help
Yorkshire.
me
Yeah,
though if you go back to Australia because we're in the same boat and I don't get to game as much with
right,
you because you're on the
right.
other side of the world and
That's true. That's
so
true. But online means it's still possible. And this is what I love. And this is why I hope we keep doing it alongside tabletop games, is
right.
because, yeah, there's quite a lot of games where, it plays just fine online or face to face. For me, I've been able to keep playing with some of my gaming friends back in Australia the whole time I've been here, thanks to playing online. I mean, that's before I found there were other gamers in Dubai, that was unbelievably important to me.
Right.
Like on the other side of the world from your friends and things. It's
Yeah.
really,
It's
really
tough,
helpful.
when
So
you move
love it.
you
Yeah.
move to I've been fortunate enough to move quite a lot in my adult life or unfortunate
Mm.
depending how you want to look at it, but one of the good things I will say is I've been able to find gamers. Sometimes it takes a while. I've been here in Duluth now for coming up on 3 years, and
Mm.
it's been a struggle. I mean, nobody wants to play anything but D&D here, and I'm not a D&D
Yeah.
player. You've seen my channel. I do a lot of diverse games, and it's
Yeah.
just Fajuka's
There's
online.
nothing
We got
wrong
to
with D&D. We just
no
like to
no
play other
nothing at
things
all.
too. Yeah.
Yeah, there's definitely I got to give a big shout out to Fajuk. He's here. That's his tagline. Whenever he
Awesome.
watches one of my videos, he'll make a comment, and then he says, "Also, Fajuk was here." So I have to give him a shout out. Thank you for watching, sir. I appreciate it.
Where do you see these things? I want to see them
Oh,
too.
you have to
Can
go
I see
to
them
the
too?
actual live stream on YouTube.
Okay.
You'd have to go to the live stream, and so if you
I
go to
see
my
it.
channel,
Okay.
yeah, just make sure
Wow.
yeah, and you can see all the chat and
YouTube.
everything. Yeah. So,
The
yeah,
technology. Okay. There you go. Fajuk is
technology.
here. Okay. Awesome.
Fajuk is here. So yeah, you can put a note in there if you so desire, Andrew. It'd be awesome. Uh, what else? So let me get to my typical interview questions. So I already know the answer because we've done this interview before, but uh,
Maybe I'll change answers. I'll change it up on you because
yeah,
I'm
there you
always
go.
changing
Just
my
don't be
opinions.
that guy. Don't be the Andy Staples
Okay.
of interviews. All right, don't do that to me. Uh, your first role playing game,
Well, it was D&D Black
right?
Box, 1991. Yeah, the new easy to master D&D.
Easy to master. Thaco is
Yeah,
your friend.
that's right. Actually, um, that is something I didn't include Thaco
In the black
in
box,
first five. Yeah, it has because well, it was there as an optional rule in the black box, but
right?
they just generally use the matrix, and I always just use the attack matrix. So you just look
Right.
up because you can
Top to
write in your
bottom.
character sheet.
Right.
Yeah, once you've written once in your character sheet, it's not difficult. You roll. You can ask the DM what AC am I targeting.
Yep. And
Any
then
number you
you
roll,
know what you need.
you
Fill in
know.
the blank. And I
That's
gotta
right.
say, snazzy little character sheet in the first five, by the way. All right.
Yeah, you
Second
can get
question.
that. You can download that online
Right.
free out of the book. You don't.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and feel free to put your website in there in the chat. Feel free to
Okay,
throw it in
I'll do
there.
that.
You know, we send some. Hopefully, some of the Meanie Army will go buy some of your products if they don't already know about it. So
There you go. That would be terrific.
the Matrix
I'll
is a
put the link there.
confusing beast. Yeah, yeah, definitely put
Yeah.
the link in there. Second question: you're on your airplane. It's going down. You're going to crash on a deserted island. You're only allowed to bring one RPG book. Just one.
Mm.
Just one. What is it?
I can't even remember what I said last time. But if I could have just one on a desert island, um, I'm looking at the pile of books next to me. I would probably say, give me the D&D rules cyclopedia. I don't know if I said that last time.
No, I don't think you did.
No?
No, that's a good answer. Okay,
Yeah.
without is there a game in your collection that you bought it, you were excited when you bought it, and then you got home and you went, "What the is this shit?"
Oh,
Where you, in other words, did you buy into an RPG and you were so excited, and then you
yeah.
got home and you read it and you went, "Why did I spend my money on this?" You don't have to name the
So
game. You can give us a
I tell you
broad
what,
generalization if there is one.
you, you know what? I will go ahead and name a game, and it's not that I had that sort of reaction, like "What is this?" It's more like I had I kept, I never worked out how to run it properly, so I always felt like it's the only game I sort of anyway. Mage the Ascension. I bought that Mage the Ascension. It was my first White Wolf game, World of Darkness game. I bought it. I think it was probably my third or fourth RPG. I bought it not long after I got into Cyberpunk, and so I've gone from D&D. That's cool. I've worked that out. Okay, you get into Cyberpunk. Wow, that's terrific. Now I became aware that all these people were playing this vampire and werewolf and other stuff, and it was in the 90s, you know. So I'll get into Mage the Ascension, and I started games a couple of times, and I don't think I never got the feeling right. I never got the vibe. Yeah, I think vampires are a bit easier to get into because you kind of know in your head what a vampire is meant to be.
Yeah. You know, that's funny
So
because I'm going to say the game for me was Wraith by White
Wraith,
Wolf.
okay, yep,
Where the player sitting next to you was your your id, your inner voice. That
mm,
and we played a game with my good friend Brian and a bunch of friends, and I remember them all getting together when Brian was pitching the game, and everyone
mm,
had collectively agreed that they didn't want me to be their id, and I just thought, wow, that's kind of hurtful, because the id is supposed to get you to do bad things and whisper in your ear. That's
mm.
the game encouraged, that kind of side role playing, like I'm supposed to whisper in your ear that, you should kill the shopkeeper because he offended whatever it may be. So yeah, that was
Yeah,
the game.
yeah,
I read that game and I just scratched my head and went, I just don't get it. But that
yeah.
is a common reaction for me for a lot of games. I can read the rules and be excited or enamored with them, but until I actually play them, or be dissatisfied with them, but until I actually
Mm-hmm.
sit down and play it and I go, oh, and I'll be blatantly honest, Chivalry and Sorcery was like that. I looked at that book and went,
Yep.
nope, nope,
Yep.
that's a lot of
Yep.
math. And
Yeah.
then when
Yeah.
I sat down to
Definitely.
play it and I realized, oh my God, this is so easy, you know, and to me, character creation in CNS can be as complex or as easy as you want it to be, because you can just go all random rolls, right? And
Yep.
and
Yep.
belt
That's
out a
very true.
character in no time, But if you want
Yep.
to make Barnabas Magnus,
Yep.
you've got to sit down and put some time into it, and to
Put
me,
some
that's a
time
sign
into
of a
it.
good game. That's not
And I
necessarily.
think that when you got a game like that, it's a big chunk. Like that would also be a game I'd be happy with if I was on a desert island. I'd be happy with that too.
Because there's a lot of
It's well
readability
balanced,
in there, right?
a lot of readability, and there's everything you need. Like if you didn't have any other books,
Right.
even though the Goblins, Orcs, and Trolls just came out and the Nightwalkers came out not long before it, you've even got the bare bones to do vampires and werewolves as
Yep.
player characters, and goblins and orcs and trolls. Oh my, all in this core
Oh
book.
my.
So
Yeah, well, yeah, you have everything you need. So,
yeah,
yeah,
so those sorts of
I'm a
games
big fan
are
of
great.
games that do that. DCC, Dungeon Crawl Classic, is another one.
Yeah,
You don't
yep.
need any other books to run DCC. You can walk away with
NASA
that
got
one.
me into that, and I've finally purchased a copy of it. And
I have three
I had
copies
Mutant
up on
Crawl
my shelf.
Classics.
I,
Okay, awesome.
I don't know if you can
Yeah,
see them, but
I,
yeah,
I think
there's
I think so.
yeah,
Yeah, I
there's
think I
two
see
up
them. Do
there.
you have Mutant Crawl Classics?
No, I do not.
MCC? Do
I'm
you
not
have
a
that one?
fan.
Okay,
Not a fan. It
not a
does.
fan of
I
that
have
one.
no
Okay,
interest in it whatsoever.
okay.
Will I add it to my collection? Probably one day. But I love DCC. I'm trying to get those guys, one of the guys on the show. One of my other uh, subscribers, and he's a Patreon. He informed me about Weird Frontiers, which I didn't
Oh
know
yeah.
anything about, which is basically a love letter to Cthulhu, Deadlands, and Dungeon Crawl Classic, and
Hmm.
it uses the DCC rules frame. And
Oh, cool.
I reached out to the guy that wrote it because Hobbs, the guy who broadcast the Low Fantasy Gaming, knows the guy,
Yeah.
and he's
Okay.
like, hey, this guy's interested. He runs a YouTube channel. He'd be interested in talking to you. Started talking to him. We hit it off, and I think towards the end of this month, he's gonna come on and be a guinea pig like you. And so I really appreciate that. And he sent me a copy of the game. I was like, hey, I'll buy a copy. I didn't know about the Kickstarter. If I'd have known, oh my God, I would have backed it. 800 and something
Yeah.
pages. It's gonna be a
Wow.
tome.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think
and
Hobbs. I remember Hobbs said once that he on his one of his podcasts he was running a game that was a DCC based game that was like Black Powder, Black Magic, something that. So this sounded like
I think that's
a
what it is.
complete version of that.
Yeah,
Yeah, this sounded like a complete
he
version
wrote
of that.
something for it. Nasser will probably know. Great minds think alike. Nasser is saying you want DCC on the show. The Fixer could do something about that.
Thanks.
Make it happen, Nasser. Make it happen. We're gonna tell Nasser. It helps if your keyboard is on it. Make it happen. Question or
Absolutely.
exclamation point Nasser. Dot dot dot. Yeah, I think DCC is. I've run it at conventions. I do somewhere around here. I have a binder with all my dead characters that I've killed. From the funnel adventures and stuff. That's the for me being Mr. Mean. That's like the ultimate. Like, I get to kill another
But
character.
I backed Mutant Crawl Classics on the Kickstarter when it came out years ago, and I didn't actually own DCC until recently. So I knew it by reputation. I
Right.
thought I don't need another class
Right.
and
Right.
level fantasy
Exactly.
game, however good it is. Although since then I've given up and I've bought every class and level because I just love them all,
Well,
right? So, but
they do a
give me another one.
Kickstarter really well. Like they just did
They
Fred
do.
Saberhagen's. Let's see, where is it up here? I thought I put it up here. Um, uh,
But the MCC Kickstarter, I think I was it from the
oh,
Kickstarter. Did I
it's
order
right
it
here.
separately?
It's right in front of me. Empire of the East.
Ah,
They just did a
oh yeah,
Kickstarter
very
for
cool.
this. like towards the end
Yep.
of last year, and I've already got my book. So that's Goodman Games.
Wow.
If
Yeah.
you're a new gamer out there and you like the D&D 5e or you like the retro clones, uh, do yourself a favor, pick up DCC. Any of these books are top production quality, and they just do awesome shit. That's the bottom line.
They
You
also
know?
do the Goodman Games also publishes that they've taken the classic D&D adventures
Yeah.
and they publish it as a hardcover for fifth edition.
Yep.
Um,
Or
and
DCC.
so
All
like
their games are compatible with
yeah,
both. But this is
yeah.
officially licensed by the estate of Fred Saberhagen, so the author
Oh,
of
no.
Empire of the East. So yeah, this is it's because this has got a little sci-fi. You could use this in Mutant Crawl Classics as well. I'm surprised you don't have this. This is
Yeah, I'm surprised I missed it actually. Yeah, but I can't remember now whether now I've said it now I'm saying it live on YouTube and everything. I've forgotten whether I really got it in the Kickstarter or bought it later. But you get the instant scratch it card character
yep,
sheets.
yep, yep. I have a
Yep,
bunch of
with
them.
like
Isn't that
I don't know if
amazing? And then as you
in Australia we
progress
call
through
them
the story,
scratchies. I
you
don't know
get
if
to
they call
scratch
them
them
in
off. Yeah,
the
it's fun. I mean, and if you're a GM, it's probably one of the better companies to do work with because they really support you. You get coasters, you get belt buckles, you get pens and pencils, and you get your. I have a stamp that says I officially died at a DCC game. So I stamped their
That's so cool.
characters. And I have
That's
one that
awesome.
says I lived. I survived the funnel, so that character goes on to become a first level character. So yeah, DCC is a phenomenal company, or Goodman Games is a phenomenal company. I've enjoyed most of their products, and like I never thought I'd buy 3 copies of a rule book, but I have.
Yeah.
I bought their
Yep.
collector's edition with the gold foil. And then when they did that, I think that's their 4th or 5th printing because they always tidy things up and spelling errors. Then they had such a huge response to it and everything. They're like, we worked a deal out with the printers where we're doing a softback because they've never done a softback of DCC. So they're like, we're going to do a softback, but we're only going to make it available to Kickstarter members. And I think now you can buy it. It's available now, but at that time it was only available for an extra $20. So you got the full
Yeah.
DCC book as a soft cover for an
I think
extra.
I've got that.
Yeah, for 20
I have a
bucks.
soft
And I was
cover one
like, yeah, and that's my one I
with a
take to
limited edition
conventions.
cover.
Yeah, I take that
Yeah.
one to
Yeah.
conventions, and then I have my hardback that I use as my GM reference,
Mm.
and then I let the softback out on the table for everybody to put their dirty little hands on. And then I have my
Sacrificial
collectors.
copy. Yeah.
That's right. And then I have my leatherette cover with the gold foil stamp is still in the box packed away because that's just
Yeah.
too beautiful to let you mooks touch them. But yeah, so yeah, big huge fan of DCC. Love running it, love playing it. It's a great game, and it's easy to run. It's so much fun. But it's a
Yeah.
chart master too. Especially if you're a magic user or a cleric, you're gonna have charts. Because you have that percentage when you roll and how well you do.
Mm-hmm.
But who doesn't want their beard to turn into purple tentacles? When they
Yeah, see,
miscast a
I
spell.
love those sorts of charts. I love that stuff because it makes Magic feel weird, but also, and this is, I mean, Jason Hobbs likes to say a lot, emergent storytelling, right?
Yeah,
So that's what those tables give you, that emergent storytelling,
yeah,
and where you didn't plan it, it's not written in the module,
yeah.
it's not
But
on the
it
DM's
happens,
railroad, but
right?
it happens,
And how
and
do
you
you
deal
deal
with
with
it.
it? Yep.
The
I
story is
love
what
it.
you do in play. Yeah, I
Yeah.
love it.
Low
Yeah,
Fantasy does that too.
absolutely.
They have their
Yep.
Dark Deeds and Deadly Magic or whatever DDM, and it's the same thing, And every time a wizard or spellcaster casts a spell, the D20 goes up by 1. So it starts at 1, and then you cast your first spell. Now it goes to 2. Cast your second spell,
Mm.
it goes to 3. And if you roll, it's a separate roll. And if you roll equal to or less than whatever the current number is on the DDM, then you roll on a chart. And well, either really cool things can happen or really bad things. And
Yeah,
99% of the time, it's going to be pretty bad things. But
pretty
it's
bad things.
super
Yeah.
cool, like you said, and it's that immersive role playing that just you can't railroad that. You
No,
can't fake
no.
it. You
Yeah.
just roll on a chart, and it's a lot of fun. So yeah, Dungeon Crawl Classic definitely has that in spades.
That's cool.
So you're running your. So we did our 2 big questions. Oh, what if there was one game you could play in that you could be a player and it didn't matter alive or dead, who would you want the GM to be?
Well, I never. Again, I have no idea where I said this before or not, but probably Greg Stafford. I would probably most want to play in a game run by Greg Stafford.
Awesome.
And but obviously, a lot of people have played in a game run by Gary Gygax, but I was never that fortunate, and I'd love to have done that too.
Yeah.
Or Dave Arneson, obviously, but I know that the probably the most common answer is going to be Gygax, but for me, Greg Stafford edges them out because I just think it would be it'd be fascinating to sort of see how he really runs those games in play and to yeah.
And just another great
really
mind,
interesting
a
guy.
great writer.
Yeah,
very creative.
And someone that really made a big difference to the hobby and to really brought a different perspective in that was than the perspective that was prevailing with the original TSR crew.
Right.
And
totally.
Yeah.
That would be
so
cool.
Yeah.
All right. So
he'd be the one.
Next, what RPG that you wish that you've played, whether you've played it or not, which one do you wish you would have written? And is there one? Which one, is there one that you just love that you're like, God, I wish I would have wrote that? Like every time you look at it, you love it because it's in your collection, but you hate it because you're like, oh, yeah. I would have wrote that. Is there one?
It's hard. Yeah, it's hard to hate any of the ones. If I like it that much, it's hard to hate it that someone else wrote it sort of first, I guess. I'm sure last time I had an answer for this, but it was not any easier last time either.
No,
and
it wasn't.
I'm not convinced it was a great answer. I can answer it. I'll answer it slightly differently, maybe. I wish I had written, or wish I had got a chance to design or wish that one day I would get a chance to design a Star Trek RPG myself, because I've got Star Trek Adventures, I've got the Decipher Star Trek, I've got some of the previous Star Trek RPGs, and none of them really scratch the itch right for me, if that makes sense.
Totally.
So I would like a chance to fail at that too.
Yeah, I mean, because you got FASA did it. Theirs was more of a tactical miniatures game, but it did have an RPG element to it. And then you had Last Unicorn Games, and then you had Decipher, and then you have Modiphius.
Yeah, and I kind of missed the Last Unicorn one until it was out of print. I got in with the Decipher game sort of again, and then I found a couple of copies secondhand of the Last Unicorn Next Gen rulebook, I think. And
I love the fact that because Decipher did the Lord of the Rings. They did the reboot of the Lord of the Rings when the movies were popular, and they signed a deal with the production houses and everything to use art and everything from the movies. And I thought it was funny that you could have Spock fight Sauron because they used the exact same mechanics, So it was like, wouldn't that be?
And neat? I think that was kind of the problem with it, right? Like I kind of felt like the Coda system, I think it was called.
Yeah.
That kind of had it was okay. The core system was okay. I think that like everything was okay. It just felt like it didn't really feel like it had been built for Trek, and
well, it wasn't because they did Lord of the Rings first, and then they got the license for, and we'll bring that around to say that while I'm so happy that Nightfall Games, Slay Industries, got second edition Slay out, and it's quite a beefy book. I mean, it's not a huge page count, but it's heavy. I'm nervous that they've got the Terminator license.
You're nervous? Ooh, okay.
Yeah. Only
Well,
because I don't want. I hope they're not using the same. I don't know. I haven't read anything up on Terminator because to be honest, I have no plans of backing it because I just don't. I see it as a
sure.
train wreck. That's nothing against Nightfall Games. I think those guys are
Yep.
great, and I love Slay. I mean, I've loved Slay for 20 years, but I have no interest in a Terminator style RPG. It just doesn't do anything for me.
Yeah.
I just hope it's
Yeah, and
not
I
going to
get
be.
that.
It's
Yeah.
not going to use the same mechanics. It's just like what's their name? Got the like Cubicle 7 uh, is it
Yep.
Cubicle 7 that got the license to do Warhammer
Warhammer.
Fantasy?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
and I bought it. I was all excited about it because I have first edition Warhammer, I have second edition Warhammer, I have I guess they consider it fourth edition or third edition of the Green Ronin version.
I'm
Yeah, that's
running this at the moment now to
yeah,
first edition. Yeah.
yes, and what a great edition. The magic
Sorry.
was a little
Yeah.
second edition cleaned up the magic quite well. But the Green Ronin version, I have all the books on the shelf there, I believe. They're not on
Mm.
the shelf, but I have quite a few of the books for Green Ronin. And to me, it's the version that works, right? For me,
Hmm. Hmm.
it's still a percentage-based system, but the guys over at Green Ronin did it, and they did a bang-up job in conjunction with Black Libraries to start. And now I went out and I went gonzo. I bought the Cubicle 7 version, and I hate it. When I read it, I was like,
All
"Oh,
right.
this is great. It's clean and everything." But then when I got to play it, I was like, "Oh, this just doesn't work. This is not for me." So it's not a
Mm.
bad game, but it's just not. It's not Warhammer for me. And then now they're doing
Yeah.
the One Ring. They're redoing the One Ring, and I'm not.
Mm.
I'm not. Actually, they lost the license to One Ring. I think Yarninigan is the guys that do Simba Room. I think they got the license to One Ring. I think.
Okay.
I
Okay.
don't remember who got it, but they're doing a second edition of the One Ring, and I didn't like the first edition of the One Ring. I just didn't like their mechanics. It just didn't work for me.
Sure.
But that,
Yeah, you have to get. Yeah, it's hard, isn't it? Like you have to. You. I think that, and this is kind of, I think what Stafford did masterfully with Pendragon was, build a game that like really feels just right for the setting that they're doing, um, and for the source material. And so, although we've had Tolkien's aesthetics in D&D from the start, I'm not sure that an RPG's ever captured how
how it
The
feels.
Hobbit or The Lord of the Rings feels when you
Yeah.
read them as stories. Anyway, but well, I mean, when we wanted to start a Warhammer game, and our Lamentations of the Flame Princess campaign had finally ended, and so I'm now working on producing some of the things that were in that campaign for publication. But this the reason we thought first edition was one because a couple of us had always had it on our bucket list. We wanted to play the Enemy Within campaign.
All right.
So one good thing I'll say for Cubicle 7 is that they've republished that or they're republishing that
And they're
for
gorgeous,
the
by the
current
way.
edition. Yeah, yeah, and plus another good thing, and this is, you know, give them full credit for that. They made this edition available in PDF on
Yes.
Drive Through RPG, nicely marked up PDFs. And it's like Wizards these days. That fifth edition, is the golden goose, but they've still got huge back business selling their back catalog through print on demand and PDF. And it's like there's never been a better time to be an RPG fan because
Right.
almost
Yeah.
every game you ever wanted or ever played before, plus all the new stuff that's coming out now, it's pretty much all available.
Yeah.
Um, if not in print, then at least in PDF.
Yeah.
And yeah,
Um, I'll say Brett Bernstein from
mm,
Hard Nova and Blood Shadows and God, I can't think of the other game now. I hate it when these things come into my head and I can't remember. Uh, he runs what is his company? I can't think of the name of his company. But he does reprints. He did Shadow World. He did Shatter Zone, Priestess Intermediate. Used to be
okay,
Pig Games, PIG, Politically Incorrect Games.
okay,
Priestess Intermediate.
uh, yep,
Brett
yep,
Brett is one of those guys that he buys up these old licenses for RPGs and he turns around and reprints them and he basically gives them life. And
mm,
Yeah, yeah. I just saw your comment in the chat about Decipher. Yeah, they didn't make enough money. They went
Yeah,
belly up. Well, and they bought these big licenses where they spent huge amounts
yeah,
of money, and it just didn't pan out for them. They didn't. It was at that time when RPGs were kind of waning. Gen Con
yeah.
was failing, and a lot of people were going. So it's just sad. It was sad, is what it was. But
And even the licenses like Star Trek and Lord of the Rings, they're expensive licenses, and they're not going to make you're never going to make that money back on them because
yeah,
Star Trek's always got problems as an RPG, to be honest.
right.
And Lord of the Rings, people already had D&D. D&D beat Lord of the Rings to the market with
The role playing.
what most people want out of Lord of the Rings.
Right.
It's only really the hardcore fans that realize they don't have Lord of the Rings when just because they got elves and dwarves. Like,
Right. Well, and um, D&D went ahead and produced its own version of Lord of the Rings for 5th edition, and it sold really well. But then I think the license got tied up or something again, and they lost it.
yeah.
So those books, if
So
you can get
Adventures
those
of
books
Middle
or you
Earth, right?
have them, yeah, Middle Earth.
Yeah.
If you can get those books, why can't we see
Mm.
Mr. Mean in a bigger box? Because Andrew is the star. You don't want to
Oh
see
wow, that means
me.
you can see my messy office slash spare bedroom slash toy storage all
I'm just
in
jealous
glorious
of
big
that
screen on YouTube.
Tyrannosaurus Rex up there on the.
This is one of my son's toys. This is a cool toy. It's got like cannons that shoot
Yeah,
something from it,
it
and
looks
it
awesome,
walks.
and it looks like
Yeah,
it might glow in the dark. Kind of looks like it has
it
that.
might actually. I could,
And then
I
of
could turn
course
off the light and
the
find
baby
out.
wipes up there on the top shelf, by the rocket. Or
Yeah. Why
I
do we even
know
have those? Huh?
I
Yeah.
know that because I have a 4-year-old at home. So
Yeah, well, but we don't, so I don't know why we maybe this
shh, maybe your wife's trying to drop
maybe
a
they've
subtle
still
hint.
been there.
They've been there for 10
Maybe
years.
they're still sealed inside. Yeah.
So I see him 2 times a week, says Nasser. Again, Nasser,
Well,
he's
I put a projection up on the background now, so I put like the
yeah,
hay, or I put the
the green screen up.
Night City.
Yeah,
Yeah, well,
nice.
yeah, that sort of effect. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And
Good
Nasser,
fella.
he is the star of the show. I'm just the host. So he gets front billing. That's just the way it works. Well, Andrew, I think we've babbled on for about an hour. Super cool, as always, to chat with you. I hope, it's my fondest hope that I get to game with you again because I had so much fun.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and whether it be with Mr. Turner or somebody else, would love to game with you again. We got to get Nasser to run a game and let us all go in and just torture him. Um,
Absolutely.
I think that would be a lot of fun. Let's see. Fujuk here says I have since gone to doing the same as Mr. Mean is doing here for my interviews because otherwise you lose too much screen space. Yep, that is. And who wants to see this ugly mug? I mean, look at big gray beard. It's not attractive. All this hair. I mean, I take my shirt off and people
Well,
are like, "Why are you wearing a sweater indoors?" I'm like, "Shut up." You know. So yeah, it's not pretty. When the dog
well,
looks at me and goes, "Stop shedding everywhere." Yeah.
well, you're, if you're picking me between the two of us, we don't have a great smorgasbord, is what you're saying in terms
But
of.
I'm just saying that me versus you, you win. It's that simple. You have that gorgeous locks of dark black hair. Mine's all going gray. So, although I do have a lot of it,
Well, I need a haircut. I mean,
Yeah, you can't.
there's a lot there.
Or,
Those headphones hide it. But
there's barbers in Dubai. There's no excuse.
yeah, no, actually, well, honestly, the one I went to all the time that closed down during the pandemic and
Yeah,
never reopened. So yeah, but
it is.
there's a new one. I need to get back to the new one.
Go
Yeah,
check him out. So, all
I
right.
will.
So, any websites, any social media you want to plug or anything like that before we wrap
Um,
up?
yeah, I'm terrible at promotion. So I'll put my website again
Yeah, put it in the
is
chat again.
grimaramil.com, and the we're on Facebook as well. You can find Grim Aramil Publishing on Facebook, and uh, you, those are the two sort of
All
main places to find us. We've got a Discord of about 3 people. Find me on the Mr. Mean Discord. There's more people there.
Well, thank you. Put links in the Discord chat for me, and then I'll be able
I
to
will
cut.
do.
I'll cut and paste them and put them into the video show notes for
Absolutely.
the YouTube, because this will get posted to YouTube as soon as we're done. But
Excellent.
as always, Andrew, it is a hoot to talk to you. I do enjoy chatting with you. I could do this for hours, but well, I don't want to eat up all your bandwidth. I know there in Dubai you're limited. Uh,
Well, bandwidth's unlimited, but sometimes
it's
we've got
spotty.
a filter that
Yeah.
it's spotty with the Discord in particular. Yeah.
Right, and so we don't. Oh man, Nasser's gonna go watch a movie with his dad. That's awesome. I wish
Oh,
my
that's great.
my pops is not alive, so I don't get to do that. But yeah,
And
spend
my
time with your
dad's
loved
on the
ones,
other
man.
side of the earth. Absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they'll be gone before you know it. So, Andrew, sir, thank you for spending this time with me. It meant a lot. I'm sorry it
Thank
took
you,
so
Mr.
long.
Mean.
I foobarred the first one. It's totally my fault, but I believe here the audio
No.
was good, the video was good. We learned some cool things about you. Uh, Obviously, never go flying with you because your plane's going to go down. And you're going to only bring that one book, so it's no good for all of us.
I got that one book. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
right. Yeah.
So, as always, a treasure and a joy. Thank you. Keep producing cool stuff. Don't forget, guys, pick
Thanks
up
so
his
much.
first 5 fantasy. It's super cool. Great to get young kids into. Chaos Cults, Bubonica. You've got a bunch of stuff out there. Check it out. Go get it. Find him on Drive Through RPG. He's got lots of cool stuff. Hit him up on the socials. And then, like he said, he endorsed it. Chat with him on Mr. Mean Speaks. We talk about
Absolutely.
RPGs. Yes, the more the merrier.
Join me in the Mean Army.
The Meanie Army. We've gone to Horde now.
That's right.
I guess you didn't get the memo.
Oh, Mini
Yeah,
Horde. I'm sorry.
the
No.
Meanie Horde. But the Army still works. It's there's the Angry Joe show Army. I don't want to copyright anybody. So we're the Horde.
Yeah.
No, I'm
The
teasing.
litigious society. We want to avoid that. Yeah.
Yeah.
The Horde. I mean, the Horde. That wouldn't be IP of any giants in the
No, not at
states.
all.
That
No,
would be a
never,
Horde.
never. Orcs with really big tusks and giant weapons. No, it doesn't come to mind any big company that might have an MMO out there that people play for hours on end. No, it doesn't ring any bells. Andrew, love you, sir. Thank you for spending time with Mr. Mean and the
Thank
Army,
you.
Army/Horde, whatever we are. Find him on his socials, Facebook, GrimmAramel.com.
Yep. Grim Animal Publishing. GrimAnimal.com. Yep.
GrimmAramel.com. And of course, on Mr. Mean Speaks, let's talk about RPGs. We're going to end the broadcast there. I want to thank everybody for watching. You guys are awesome. As always, the Meanie Army is amazing, and I love you guys. Peace and hair grease. Remember to like and subscribe. What does D2D say? Thumbs if you liked it, subs if you loved it. And I'm also on Patreon, so if you want to support the channel, that's a great way to do it. You can also support me via PayPal at paypalpayme.com/John Polak. All the notes will be down in all the links will be down in the show notes. So as always, thank you everybody. Andrew, thank you, sir. Peace and hair grease.